I think it's always so interesting for me to try to put together a reading list. And I'm always hoping, I hope everything flowed really well. So tonight I'm going to start with a poem that is in the latest edition of AQR. It's a little bit different from the poems that are in my book, Open the Dark. It's called Namesake Triptych, and it's about my Puerto Rican family. Namesake Triptych. 1. Grandmother wore a cotton dress. Nellie and I watched her shuffle to the door. Before introductions, she kissed me, held my hands in her wrinkled ones, led us through her tiny home. Our room was clean. The large window had a thick screen, and the double-handled pane was raised high. On the wall, a portrait, my baby picture. All those years ago, black-haired, a blue dress and white shoes, smiling. Did she recognize me? What did she think of my parents' divorce? Her grandchildren growing up in Alaska. That night, a huntsman spider trapped herself in the window screen, full of eggs, ugly. The sound of her legs on metal grate filled the night, made our room too small to sleep in. 2. A different life. I met my grandmother, Maria, in Puerto Rico. She was a tiny lady with deep brown skin and wrinkled hands. She spoke quickly and only in Spanish. I called her Bajita, like Papi did. She made me popsicles of fresh piña juice and real coconut. She washed my laundry by hand on a scrub board, which embarrassed me. Not the board, but the idea that she had to do it. I realized then what a different life I would have led, a Puerto Rican instead of an Eskimo. 3. You have your father's eyes. I'll never forget the look on Papi's face when I showed him the brown smudges nestled at the bottom of my foil-wrapped Rice Krispies treat. Tiny roaches, I imagined. He wasn't sure. Before he blinked, I saw the truth. He smiled, showed me his dimple. Chocolate, he said. And then I'd like to read a couple of smaller poems from the book Open the Dark. The first one is called A Quack Shrek. And when I've read this before, I don't think that I've let people know what a quack shrek means, and it means old woman. And I aspire to be an old Native woman who doesn't care what she says any longer. So that's sort of what's behind this poem, A Quack Shrek. One spring, sandhill cranes flew into sight. Having landed, they became hard to spot, their bodies and wings dirt brown, the color of dead willow leaves. That fall, the crane wife fed her husband cranberries. He balked. He made fun of the tiny morsel. At night, while he slept, she dressed his eyes in red berry pulp, staining him for life. And the next poem is a poem, quite a few of my poems I wrote to remember people in my family that have passed on. And so this poem I wrote for my mom. It's called Confection. All the health books say sugar feeds the cancer. My mother returned to me in a dream, her frail lace of lashes, the sweet medicinal mother smell of her lip dew, her smile. I don't know if anyone will remember that she loved short ribs, salad with ginger sauce, baklava. Baklava so decadent, I refused to make it while she lay in her bed, unable to garner an appetite. I didn't bake it until her fight was gone, the sweet no longer a temptation. Like a child with a tiny treasure, she bragged on her gooey, honey-smothered pastry to Millie, her home nurse. She stashed bits of delight away in the freezer. And then I have a couple of short poems that I consider my political poems. And this is one that I really like. And this is actually one that Heather read a couple of weeks ago at a state meeting. That was really exciting for me. So this one is called For the Newly Elected School Board Member, From Anywhere But Here. Welcome to the ancestral land of my people. We already know you. Bossy white woman thinks she owns the world, rules the school, wags her finger in our face, preaches love if only we'd listen. And then the longest poem in this book, I wasn't going to read it tonight, but I thought about it a little bit, and it makes, the last poem that I'm going to read is something that I just wrote, and it makes more sense if we have the background of this poem called They Tried to Teach Me History. They tried to teach me history. The parents of these Indian children are ignorant and know nothing of the value of education. John S. Ward, U.S. Indian Agent, 1886. The beginning, first steps, declaring what is, naming it, Ugruk, bearded seal. Parents, defenders, teach a child by example, by witness. Grandfather said, when a young man comes of age, he must learn to hunt. Of, the Bible says, and Jesse begat David the king, and aren't we all the sons of Adam, each one? These, right here, as if it was happening today. Wait, the school teacher stands up at City Hall, begs for money to do her job, then blames the parents when she fails. Indian, Alaska Native, Hopi, Dene, Inuk, the real people. Children, not vessels. We fill them up, not understanding what's useless can't be poured out. They're drowning. Are is better than were. My brother was lost and now he's gone. Ignorant. Ignorance, another word for why can't you do it my way? Less the guilt. And what follows after dismissal is grief, disaster, destruction. Brown faces on the street, middle of winter, waiting for bars to open. No, the difference between life and death is the difference between the truth and a lie. You can't take it back. Not today, not tomorrow, forever. Nothing. Everything taken away. Our land, our ways, our children, gone. Abandoned Kujki, sod house, returning to earth. Of, tell it to your children, and let your children tell it to their children, and their children to the next generation. Remember. The, definite, specified by circumstance, unneeding of recognition or approval or equivocation. I am. Value. What is the fair price of happiness? Can it even be measured? Unacknowledged injustices are wounds left unhealed, left to fester, warm to the touch. Of songs unsung, hang in the air, no ears remain to claim them, make them listen. Education. Would it matter if I laid out the process for cutting seal, splitting the carcass, separating the blubber from the meat, which is dried in the wind and sun, butterflied open from tail to neck, meat hung till black, backbone hacked, intestines braided, to be cleaned, water run through them, water to wash away the sin of being. And then I have another short poem, which I don't read a lot. So I thought, okay, well, tonight I'm going to read this poem. It's called Pride. Pride, Front Street, Nome, Alaska. A drunk young man stands at the corner, hugging his new girlfriends. Suddenly he throws his middle fingers into the air and yells after the police car, "Ha, ha, yeah." And then this is my second to the last poem. And this is another poem that appeared in AQR. Okay, and this one is called Approaching Winter. A lone gull makes its way across an expanse of silt, stinking of molluckchucks and rotting willows, loose feathers, and one discarded sock, which clings to the anchor line of a dogged fisherman's net. An abandoned snow machine, sunk last spring, sits exposed near the far shore. The gull is white and mottled gray, ambling on pink legs, long pale yellow beak raised in the air, a debutante, unsure of how to hike her ruffled gown. And then this last poem, the City of Nome Museum reached out and said that they were preparing an oral history of COVID experiences of people in our region. And this is my submission. And this is a brand new poem, so bear with me. It's called Kini Loa Taktuna Ellipsi Ninun. My grandfather shared a story from his youth. As a boy, he lived in a sod house with his parents, siblings, and his grandmother. He grew up wearing cotton pants and sealskin mucklucks. His cloudy eyes would wander as he recalled falling from his bunk one night. He swears that his life was saved by his mother, Nellie, and her love. My mama nursed me, he said. She stayed at his side and fed him broth. He would tell us many times that a soup made from boiled ptarmigan could nurse anyone to health. I wonder what he would make of COVID. What would a man who grew up without his natural first language, silenced by the intimidation of not succeeding, what would he think of today's mask mandate? Of a cloth that covers up who you are, a mask that makes us all the same, takes us from individual to homogenized mass, strips us of our natural first instincts to make contact, to smile. I suppose, as a people known for nonverbal communication, it might be easier. Inupiaq, using our eyes to assert humanity. Thank you.